reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. When the Magi had departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, "Rise, take the child and his mother, flee to Egypt, and stay there until I tell you. Herod is going to search for the child to destroy him." Joseph rose and took the child and his mother by night and departed for Egypt. He stayed there until the death of Herod, that what the Lord had said through the prophet might be fulfilled. "Out of Egypt I called my son." When Herod had died, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, "Rise, take the child and his mother and go to the land of Israel, for those who sought the child's life are dead." He rose, took the child and his mother, and went to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was ruling over Judea in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go back there. And because he had been warned in a dream, he departed for the region of Galilee. He went and dwelt in a town called Nazareth, so that what had been spoken through the prophets might be fulfilled. He shall be called a Nazarene. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Well, I think it is finally over. For 2 weeks now, I have been snowed under. The last of it came yesterday. I thought at certain times something in my house would burst, but now I'm sure of it. Christmas card season is finally over. I've long stopped trying to respond to all the Christmas cards I get from long-lost relatives and fellow priests and former parishioners, but I enjoy receiving them. I read every single one I get. And I particularly enjoy those cards that have a little picture of the family on the front. Invariably, those pictures are idyllic. There is mother and father, boys and girls, all dressed in matching Christmas sweaters, hair neatly combed, a perfect smile on everyone's face. Behind them will be some Christmas tree or manger scene, and it's beautiful. But I know those families pretty well, and I know that none of them are quite as perfect as they look on the picture. I know what problems and what difficulties they go through in life. I know they're not a perfect family. I think I smile at those pictures because I know how much it took to get that one shot. How many hours of crying those poor parents probably had to endure to get all their little ones in those sweaters. Or how many shots it took to get everyone to be looking at the camera and to have that required smile. This week, of all weeks, should remind us that no family is perfect. Visiting relatives and family on Christmas can be exhausting. Like just this week, we had to deal with money problems and depression and illness and complaining siblings and divorce and families that no longer go to church. All of these things we deal with. Sometimes it's tempting to just open up a can of sardines all alone and call it a Christmas. It'd be a lot easier. And yet somehow we say there is no place like home for the holidays. Don't we celebrate during this Christmas season a God who loved us so much that he entered into the messiness and the dysfunction of human life. He entered into it completely, including having a family. Don't let that manger scene fool you. I'm sure that if Joseph, Mary, and Jesus were going to send out a Christmas card, they would choose a picture of that scene, because look how perfect it looks. There, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph are sitting perfectly, right in place. There's stars shining overhead. The straw is so neatly arranged in the manger. There's a perfect smile on the donkey's face. It's a beautiful scene, but don't let it fool you. As we read through the stories in the gospel during this Christmas season of Jesus' childhood, from the early chapters of Matthew's gospel and Luke's gospel, what do we find out? Their family, like any family, was far from perfect. They had just as many troubles as anyone else, maybe more. Just to look at everything they've experienced so far. They've experienced poverty and homelessness and disbelieving relatives and trials and persecution and exile and unexpected pregnancies and people contemplating divorce. The list goes on and on and on. Isn't that interesting? The Son of God experienced all of that. That's what a holy person does, after all, what a saint does. A saint doesn't float above all the problems of human life. A saint dives right into all the difficulties and messiness of human life. and tries to transform this sinful world with the power of God's love. So we celebrate a beautiful thing that God himself shared in the messiness of human life. It takes a lot of hard work, sweat, tears, patience, forgiveness to keep a family together, to keep it going, to keep it on track, to keep it focused on God. A man came home from work one afternoon and to find a complete chaos in his household. His 3 children were in the front yard, rolling in the mud. They were still in their pajamas. There was wrappers and empty food boxes everywhere in the yard. The door of his wife's car was open. The front door of the house was open. As he went into the house, he found an even greater mess. There was food everywhere, and clothes everywhere, and toys everywhere. The TV was blaring some cartoon channel. As he went into the kitchen, there was a big pile of dirty dishes in the kitchen. And there was a broken glass on the floor, a pile of dirt over there. He ran up to his wife's room to find out what was happening. He stepped over carefully all the shoes and toys as he went up. And he found his wife lounging in bed, in her pajamas, reading a novel. "Hello, dear," the wife said. And the husband said, "What happened here today? What on earth went on?" And the wife responded, "Well, you know how every day when you come home from work, you ask, what on earth do you do all day? Well, today I decided not to do it." Christmas should remind us there are no perfect families. The world doesn't need perfect families. The world needs holy ones. It's amazing that Jesus came out of all of this really dysfunction, all of this chaos in his childhood, happy, joyful, ready to do God's work in the world, growing in wisdom and age and grace, full of the love of God and love of other people. What did Joseph and Mary do right? What can we learn from this holy family for our own imperfect families? Well, I think we can learn just 3 things. First, what the Holy Family teaches us is that as families we have to have our priorities in order. We've said many times what it takes to live a happy life, a joy-filled life. Put Jesus first, others second, yourself third. J-O-Y, joy. That's how you have a joyful life. You have your priorities in order. Well, really, it's the same recipe if you want a happy, joy-filled family. You have to have your priorities in order. Look at the Holy Family. Everything about their life was centered around God and doing the will of God. And they do the will of God quickly and easily. Mary says yes to being the mother of God. Joseph obeys when the angel says, "Take Mary into your home." He obeys when he says, "Go flee to Egypt." Joseph and Mary take Jesus to the temple at all the times required by the law. We can imagine them praying together as a family, going to synagogue on the Sabbath together, reading the scriptures together, learning the faith of Israel. They were focused on God first in their life. I've spoken to so many parents who will trace a huge change in their family. Great peace and great unity coming into their household despite all their troubles from the day that they began to pray together as a family. Usually in the evening, that's when it works best, but they began to pray together, and it changed their family forever. Or I've also talked to parents that say the opposite, that needless worry and disunity came into their family. They trace it back to the day they stopped praying together as a family. A few months ago, I was talking to one family here in the parish, and I was asking them whether, this is around when we were changing up the Mass schedule, I said, "Do you think you'll be coming to the Sunday evening Mass now here at All Saints?" I figured, they're a busy modern family, and with sports schedules and school schedules and everything else, it would work good for them. And they said, "No, Father, we will be coming to the morning Mass like we always do. We always do that as a family, first thing, and then we structure the rest of our Sunday around that." And I thought that was very beautiful. Not that there's anything wrong with going to the evening Mass, but as a family, that particular family expressed their priority by going to church first and then scheduling the rest of their life around that. They had their priorities in order. God first. And then others second. A good, healthy family is based around selfless, self-sacrificing love. Again, look at St. Joseph. His whole life was about taking care of Mary and Jesus, providing for them. Our readings today from both the Old and New Testament, we hear all of these different commandments about what mothers should do, what wives should do, what husbands should do, what parents should do, what children should do. But really, if we listen in carefully, all of them boil down to Jesus' commandment. Love one another as I have loved you. That's what it's all about. If you want to be happy in life, if you want to be self-fulfilled, if you want to go on a journey of self-discovery, forget yourself. Serve other people. And as a family, that's what we have to do. Parents, your role is to serve your children. You probably already knew that when you get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to make them breakfast. Your job is to serve them. But really serve them. Don't pander to them. Don't do whatever they want. Do what's good for them. Do what's right for them. Lead them to heaven. Parents, you get to heaven. You become holy in your life by doing your best to get your children to heaven, to make your children holy. That's how you fulfill your role. And children, obey your parents. Sorry, but it says in the scriptures that the parents are the authority in the family, not the children. And I think we get that wrong sometimes in our culture. Sometimes our families become centered around doing the child's will rather than the parents leading the children to do God's will. St. Paul puts it so beautifully. Put on, as God's chosen ones, humility, patience, gentleness, kindness. Forgive one another as Christ has forgiven you. Over all these put on love. St. Paul is very wise. He knows that one of the big virtues we need for family life is forgiveness and patience with each other. So that's the first thing. We have our priorities in order. The second thing we learn about from the Holy Family is the importance of protecting our family. St. Joseph wasn't blind to the fact that there was a very powerful person out there, in fact, the most powerful man in the region, King Herod, trying to kill his baby son. And so he did whatever it took to protect his family. He went to Egypt. He went and settled up at Nazareth. He did whatever it took to protect his family. How often do we allow the enemies of our family to walk right into our homes, right into our front door, by what we put on the television set, by what websites we visit, by what's on the media, by what our children are learning at school? We become blind to the fact that there are powerful forces out there trying to spiritually murder our children. And I think parents have to get their head out of the sand and figure that out. That we can't just put on anything. We have to be protective of the faith and the virtue of our family. And then finally, third thing we learn is, as a family, we should expect trouble. Trouble comes to all of us. None of us are perfect. No family is perfect. We shouldn't be surprised. But I think particularly as families, we're going to face trouble. Because families are so valuable, and families are so important and so fragile in this fallen world. Families are the hope of the church. They're the hope of the world. They're the school of love. And the devil tries like nothing else to destroy the family, to neutralize its power. And so if you're going to be a faithful family, you are going to face opposition, spiritual warfare, and you are going to face temptation. So what do? Look at the Holy Family. Don't be afraid. Just keep on going. Remain faithful. Do your best. Beg God's help every single day. Seek to grow in love. Seek to get your priorities in order. Seek to protect the life of your family. And while you might not have a perfect family, you'll have, with God's help, a holy one. So next Christmas, do yourself a favor. It's very easy. Just get a photographer to come on some random day, take one picture, go home, put it on your card. It might not be perfect. Junior might not have a smile on his face. You might still be in your pajamas. The living room might be a mess. But there will be a picture of a true family. A family, a community of people growing together, doing their best, trying to love each other, trying to grow in the love of God, and trying to get each other to heaven.